I have decided to take a different approach in these last few days leading up to Christmas. It may cost me the support of a lot of people, but it just seems like it has to be said. I'll probably continue outwardly the same as I have been, encouraging people to contact their members of parliament in an effort to get them to declare their position on the climate change emergency. But honestly and inwardly, I have to say, it does not look like any of them are going to reverse their position at this late stage. Maybe, if they were absolutely certain that I was about to die, and their action might save my life, maybe yes. But honestly, I don't think I am going to die. Or if it did happen, it would happen suddenly, like from a heart attack. So I'm not even going to think of using, much less trusting, such a dramatic show to get them to do anything they simply don't want to do. In short, I'm giving up hope of getting another 3 MPs to respond and state their position. But I will continue my hunger strike. Remember, this hunger strike was, like the initial 7-day global hunger strike organized by Extinction Rebellion, fundamentally for the purpose of getting the general public more aware about the fact that there really is a climate emergency. But more than that, my own more extended hunger strike from here on will be aimed at making the public aware of just how big the problem is, to the point of possibly crushing some false hopes that some of us have. Now, think about it. Fasting by me, together with lots of demonstrations by other members of Extinction Rebellion over that period and over the period leading up to it, asking, begging, pleading, even demanding a change has not been enough to even get 12 of 128 politicians to simply state their position on climate emergency. Can anyone seriously believe that these are the kind of leaders who are going to have the courage to stand up to the rest of us to make the really drastic changes that are needed to save this planet, even after they declare their position? You see, the real changes that are needed would incense many of us, even those of us who say we support action. Come on, people. At the rate that even the tiniest changes are happening, all the hunger strikes in the world are not going to save Melbourne, much less the planet. All the demonstrations, all the speeches, all the civil disobedience, all the summits and discussions will not change the underlying fundamental truth, which is that all of us, myself included, are powerless. Certainly we are powerless to change our professed leaders into real leaders, if not powerless to make the necessary changes ourselves. It should not be the job of the followers to lead the leaders. Leaders need to be leaders, and that simply is not happening on this issue. Not in Victoria, or really anywhere else in the world for that matter. They only change when they become overwhelmed by hordes of fired up followers. I know I'm not supposed to be pointing fingers, and I don't want to make this personal, but I'm talking about a universal problem, one which we must corporately take responsibility for. Now, I've got to sincerely compliment people like Greta Thunberg and organizations like Extinction Rebellion, who have been able to raise public awareness much more than ever has been done previously. It inspired me to make this hunger strike to begin with. But listen carefully. Listen to Greta's speeches. What is it that she, in her youthful enthusiasm, is asking for? What are we pushing for? What are we hoping against hope for? It's not a world totally free from any future threat of extinction, thriving in globally pure air for everybody. What we're desperately struggling to get is for our leaders to jump from a 50% chance of survival to a 67% chance.
To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, the best odds given by the IPCC.
And even Greta says in her speech to the United Nations that the chances of getting our leaders to even meet that demand are pretty near hopeless.
There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today.
So, we talk of cutting carbon emissions by 7% per year, as if that's the best we can ever even hope to get from an indifferent world. And we ask and we beg and we campaign and we even starve ourselves for that 7% because it'll buy us a little more time. But how much time will it buy us if we get it? And what are the chances that we will get it? A government has just been voted in the United Kingdom, which may well rival the American government in its absolute opposition to treating climate change seriously. And those two governments are joined by Russia in that respect. Well, and then there's Australia. Australia, with its relatively tiny population, is the third worst country in the world per capita for contributing to carbon emissions, if you take into consideration our coal exports. Yet we are about to start operations on yet another coal mine, one of the biggest coal mines in the world, virtually doubling our contribution to the problem. Now, please understand, my point in raising awareness of just how hopelessly serious this problem and our efforts are is not totally negative. No, far from that. My aim is to raise awareness of what the world really could be like if only we were to get into line, and wait for it, with the Creator. The Creator of this great, wonderful planet that we call Earth. I'm talking about a world where we totally wipe out all of the glitz and the glamour, all of the gadgets and conveniences, all of the banks and the finance companies, all of the pomp and ceremony. Wipe it all out and get back to the garden. Jesus Christ, I know you don't want to hear that. People around the world have come to hate his name, and a lot of it is because of the horrible spirit of those who claim to be following him. But hear me out. I'm talking about the real Jesus, the real Jesus of history. He said, consider the birds, consider the lilies of the field. God, your heavenly Father, cares for them. They don't have jobs. They don't have bank accounts. They don't make clothes. They don't even plant crops. And yet God feeds them. If he can take care of those birds, can't he take care of you? Now we've rejected that. We've ignored that and said we can do it ourselves without him. And what has that created? You see, when we let go of all of the pretensions about what we have to have, and when we start with nothing, like Jesus and his followers did, out there on the streets, if you like, penniless, just looking for ways to help others and make this a better world. When we do that, things start coming together according to how our Creator intended them to be. Back when we saw ourselves living in a garden, we absolutely must go back to that garden in our thinking and in our lifestyle. Well, in the next few days leading up to Christmas, I'm going to continue this hunger strike. But here on this Facebook page, I'm also going to promote a real change, a real answer. But I'm going to be honest about the real costs of making that world too, whether that truth is popular or not. Well, I'll leave it there for now, and I'll get back to you guys tomorrow.